Oh, big run. Oh, he fumbled. He fumbled. Shit.
He's still.
Now he's about to lose his mind.
He hasn't seen the play yet.
Please tell me why he missed it. Wait a minute.
Good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Bucky. Okay, Bucky, you're singing too long. Bucky, enough. Thank you. I hope everybody had a good weekend. Hope you didn't eat too much potato salad, burgers, and hot dogs and everything else, and that you put on a whole bunch of weight. I'm going to say I'm actually less. I weigh less than I did before the 4th of July because I've been out there sweating my ass off. Actually, my wife said, I ain't got that much ass. She said, belly-wise, you got a lot of that, but you ain't got enough ass. So anyway, I hope everybody's having a good day. We are less than 2 weeks away from the Dallas Cowboys reporting for training camp. And I can't wait. 13 days, that's it. And we'll finally have some stuff to really talk about with the Cowboys and the NFL. I have to say that this has been so dry since OTAs. Now, yesterday we did have a blip on the radar. A lot of people are panicking because of Turpin being arrested. Now, I'm going to say this is, I hope the worst case thing that happens to Turpin is from the Dallas Cowboys, because I think that this is an opportunity for Schottenheimer to not only be the player's friend, but also to be a father that sets you straight and actually sets an example that we are a no-nonsense team, that this is not going to be acceptable. The grand scheme of things is it's two misdemeanor charges. The only question would be is things that have happened in the past could resurface that may jeopardize this case. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But let me remind you of something here. Let me remind you of something that happened in Dallas last year with Rashid Rice. Rashid Rice was just at the autograph signing show, and people were lining up to pay him to get his autograph. Yes, they were. Rashid Rice was racing 130 miles an hour on the interstate, had an accident with 7 cars, and walked away. Literally walked away. And do you know, it's funny how there hasn't been a trial for that yet. That it's, I think, next year for that case. There was no suspension from the NFL. None. 0. Now, we do know that the Dallas Cowboys are graded differently than everybody else. The Dallas Cowboys are always the example because they are the Dallas Cowboys. For example, Zeke Elliott situation. Even though Zeke Elliott was never arrested, Zeke Elliott was never charged, Zeke Elliott had not only the police department, but the district attorney both do investigations, followed up by the NFL, which came out with a 120-page report where their investigator literally said, there's nothing here. There's nothing here. The NFL still suspended Zeke for 6 games. So there's possibly, of course, that the NFL decides to do something from that standpoint. But I think the NFL is kind of getting away from doing a lot of that. They're trying to kind of like, no. I don't see I don't hear anything. I don't see anything. Okay. They'd rather not have to deal with those situations. But if you didn't do anything with Rashid Rice's situation where potentially it could have been just like, well, no, he was drinking though, or drugs or whatever. But in Vegas, probably won't be anything from this one there. But this is the opportunity for the Cowboys to say, we have changed the culture. That what we've been saying is what we're actually doing. And this is the way you go ahead and you make an example and say, this is not acceptable and this is not what we expect. And here's the ramifications if you step out of line. And I'm not suggesting that they cut him for this. I'm saying that you still need to make sure that they don't get away with. Because then, problem is the next time, the next guy, oh, well, shit, they're not going to do anything. So I hope that this is a learning experience. Now, looking back, I was having a great conversation this morning with my man DMV about the season and things. And, you know, it's funny because him and I are thinking along the same lines about a lot of things. The question we have is, now, the Cowboys, I pointed out that Zeke Elliott, a lot of people look and say, oh, my God, well, you had Zeke Elliott. And they equate Zeke, like Zeke Elliott the last few years was Derrick Henry. In actuality, Zeke Elliott through the last 5 years has only had 1,000-yard season, and it was just barely over 1,000 yards. And we've been lacking in the running back department for a while. And DMV was saying to me the same thing. He's like, you know, I don't know why we don't look at running back. We've had some talking heads out there that are saying that the Dallas Cowboys have the worst rushing attack in football. Now, Miles Sanders coming off of 2 subpar seasons with Carolina, maybe there's plausible deniability because, you know, Carolina was a bad team. You got Javonte Williams, who potentially is hopefully completely recovered from his ACL, but, you know, it's kind of last year was not a great season. And then you have potential in running backs. We don't know how well it'll be. But the Cowboys, of course, always focusing in on the offensive line. Now, the great thing was we had Eugene Monroe, former Jacksonville Jaguar, Baltimore Raven, left tackle, who knows Tyler Booker and was saying, yeah, you got a good one. The Cowboys believe in investing in the offensive line and figure that the offensive line, we can just put anybody back there. And yes, you will have success, but you still need to have somebody special, somebody who can break some of those when the offensive line's not getting in space, somebody that can get an extra yard or two because of their elite ability. You know, Rico had a good season last year, but if he was an elite back, he probably would have had about another 300 or 400 yards. In a game of inches, a few yards here and there can make all the difference in the world. Now, hopefully our offensive line is better. You know, I love the fact that all of them are working out with Duke Merriweather, and maybe they're going to be better than they were last year. Definitely will be more seasoned since we only have 1 rookie starting this year as opposed to 2. The other part of that conversation we were having is the defensive line. Now, I think our linebacking core could be better, especially if we get Overshown back at some point. The problem I think we're going to have is if we have a lead, and Dak, it's on you, Dak, we need you guys to score a lot of points because that plays into the strengths of our defense. We're going to be great at rushing the quarterback. We are a lightweight defense. My biggest concern is Mozzie and Jay Tola are our only 2 big men that we have in the middle. And I'm afraid that, you know, Osa Ndigazua, who is a great pass rusher, is not the best at stopping the run. And guys like Solomon Thomas, again, light in the ass. The defensive line, what? My wife's over here laughing. Yeah, no, they're light in the ass. Okay, 290. You know, when you got to stop the run, you want like a 350, okay? You want that great big juicy butt on that line that's hard to move, okay? Maybe some of these guys need to get a Brazilian butt lift or something. I don't know. But we definitely need more ass on the line. My wife's over here cracking up. So that's my biggest concern is when we get into playoffs or we get into teams like the Eagles that have a great offensive line and a great running back, Can we stop the run? And those are the problems that we always have with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, again, this offseason has been incredible, getting George Pickens to actually see the activity. As I was pointing out also with DMV, we were having a great conversation. It should have been a live stream. As I look at what the Cowboys have done in this offseason, yes, we still have some of the bottom basement free agents, but we've made some trades that we look at and say that could be beneficial, much like Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks were. And especially getting George Pickens, that they literally said, this is one of our biggest weaknesses is that we don't have a legitimate number 2 wide receiver that scares people. And being able to get George Pickens for a 3rd-round pick, as cheap as he is, was a major upgrade. If we had taken Matthew Golden, we don't have Tyler Booker. We got Brock Hoffman, who's starting. And to me, that may be the biggest single move that the Cowboys made that made all the difference in the world, because basically that move allowed you to take care of 2 positions instead of just 1. And I have to applaud them. But looking back, and this is what I said to DMV, I said, looking back, I said, see, they are trying to be successful with Brian Schottenheimer, more so than they ever were with Mike McCarthy. Take a look and think about it. The first year Mike McCarthy was here, they actually did go out in free agency and try and bring name players, Clinton Ha-Ha-Dix, Dontari Poe, Emerson Griffin, and Gerald McCoy. None of them panned out, not a single one. Emerson Griffin was probably the best of the lot, but eventually he went back to Minnesota. Gerald McCoy, injured in training camp, injury settlement. Clinton Ha-Ha-Dix didn't make the team, didn't make it out of training camp. And Dontari Poe, well, that was a big ass. Okay, you could have said he had a Brazilian butt lift before they were Brazilian butt lifts. He just laid on his fat ass. He didn't do anything. And since that time, the only other moves that they made was Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks. Everything else was replacing players that we had lost, replacing a Tyron Smith, replacing a Amari Cooper. They never upgraded a single position and said, here we go, we're going to lose this guy, but we're going to get somebody better. Everything else was, we just got to find a warm body to fill in the holes. This year, methodically, they seem to have gone through and tried to actually upgrade some of the positions. Now, whether or not it works, I don't know. I know, of course, right now is that time of year where expectations get turned up for the Dallas Cowboys. And everybody now all of a sudden is going to be like, oh, well, Dak's got no excuses now. He's got this, that, and the other. And in reality, it's not as much as you think. All righty, so unlike other teams, we don't have any holdouts. We have a contract that needs to get done that we know will get done. Other teams have got some holdouts that, Trey Henderson. And so, Scary Terry, as well as a couple others. Question will be is, will some of these guys like T.J. Watt be traded? So, no-brainer, best landing spots for T.J. Watt. Let's go to Rich Eisen.
Here in Western Pennsylvania. I don't think there is any, but if you just Google T.J. Watt's name right now, everything is basically, he's gone. What are the best landing spots for T.J. Watt? And, the best landing spots for T.J. Watt are the same best landing spots we once upon a time had for Devontae Adams when he was supposedly on the move. Myles Garrett when he was supposedly on the move. The top 5, if you will, landing spots for T.J. Watt is your team. That's the top 5 landing spots.
Right.
Name me a team in the National Football League, including the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those are the best landing spots for T.J. Watt, which is why he's going nowhere. I keep telling everybody, this is what we call a negotiation that apparently isn't close to resolution right now. We had Jerry Dulac on this program, sitting there in Western Pennsylvania. He's got some ins with the organization. He definitely knows what's going on there. He talks to a lot of people within that building. And he said that he thinks this is going to go into training camp, which is not great for Steelers fans because you're going to be on pins and needles thinking, is this really going to go in a certain direction that's
Cowboys.
not him coming back? And it's not great for TJ Watt because I'm sure he'll be on pins and needles. And there'll be times where he's really pissed because this isn't getting done to the manner of his liking, which is, according to Jerry, the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League. And we all know who that individual who currently sits in that perch. His name is Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett with $40 million a year. And TJ Watt, who is going to turn 31 years of age in October of this year, is a guy that, as Jerry said, a couple of times in the conversation, the Steelers saw a slight drop-off in productivity from him, or at least burst, or at least a little bit showing that he's made the turn in his football career. I'm sure if TJ Watt heard that, or anybody named Watt heard that, they wouldn't take very kindly to that evaluation. And so there were reports that come out that there are teams calling for TJ Watt. There are teams interested in TJ Watt.
Of course there are.
To which I say, no kidding. I mean, like, why wouldn't there be? If you're looking at the Pittsburgh football waters and seeing Chum in there, of course you're going to call him, right? But at the end of the day, if this was a team with a rookie quarterback, if this was a team that was waiting to draft a rookie quarterback and had a veteran bridge quarterback that didn't really give the team much of a chance to win a playoff game, a division, a playoff game, a playoff run, TJ Watt might be much more vocal in saying, I want out of here. Okay. Myles Garrett did, right? Myles Garrett, prior to the Super Bowl, said, I want out. He came on this show and said it.
To your face.
To my face.
To your face.
Wow.
In the face. That was 2 Super Bowls ago. This year was, my face.
You were scarred by that, too, for a little bit.
Because, I'm always glass half full. I'm an optimist. I like saying yes to people. You're a pleaser. I'm a pleaser. I'm a guy who wants to be happy and everyone happy around me. Honestly, that's my default. And so for a guy to basically say, when I say, what do you say to people who say this is a money play? It's like, it is not.
It might not have been.
Yada, 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 yada. He got $40 million a year, and thus his concerns about winning a championship with a potentially rookie quarterback or bridge quarterback that doesn't really give your team much of a chance to win a division, go on a playoff run.
Yeah, they need
win a playoff game, go on a playoff run. Cleveland might prove us all wrong. They have a 2-time coach of the year in Kevin Stefanski there, who last won the award when the quarterback who's in the quarterback room won comeback player of the year just with a nice 7-week heater in Flacco. But Aaron Rodgers is not that bridge quarterback that doesn't give you a chance. Now, I know he hasn't played like the MVP in 3 years for various reasons. But the Steelers think he can, which is why they put the eggs in the basket. And TJ Watt, after you go and get Rodgers, after you go and trade for DK Metcalf and give him the richest contract in Steelers history at that position, and you go and trade for Jalen Ramsey, who's pretty damn expensive. You give him $1.5 million raise. Welcome to the team. And you bring in Jonnu Smith and triple his salary. Here's a $12 million deal. Welcome to the team. You're only making 4, now you're making 12. You go and get Darius Slay.
Big play.
You'd run it back with Cam Hayward, friend of the program. You draft not a quarterback in the first round. You draft a defensive tackle because that is an area of need. You do all of this
You got to keep TJ.
to win now. And TJ Watt is not going to walk. Because the Steelers tell him, you're done now.
But
I can't see that. I just don't see it. It would be the silliest thing to do. Because of what he means to the...
But to give you a different perspective on this. See, here's the thing. That sounds good in theory, but this feels like this is the last ride. That Aaron Rodgers is the last grab and so on. And the thing in the back of my mind is Pittsburgh is where the draft is next year. And if you do trade TJ Watt, you're going to get a boatload of capital. Aaron Rodgers is not the long-term solution. It's going to be one and done probably. He'll come through, destroy the team and the roster, and you're starting over. What better way to start over with the new coach? Because clearly Mike Tomlin, it's time for him to go to another team in the same way Andy Reid needed to lead the Eagles. And it would be an incredible way come April next year to have the number one pick in the draft. Well, good people, that's all I have to say about all that. And we're going to get out of here. We're going to get to work. We're going to try and see if we can drop some more poundage off of this fat rear end. Oh, sorry. Belly. It's the belly. Peace out.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition. This is ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Brought to you by Lincoln Mercury. Nobody has more kinds of cars for more kinds of people. See them at the sign of the cat. By Goodyear, makers of the custom Steel Guard radial tire. And by State Farm Mutual. Almost anywhere you live, there's a State Farm agent nearby. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.